The final golden rays of the sun vanished behind the neat rooftops of Privet Drive. In the smallest bedroom of number 4, a boy named Harry Potter sat alone. It was his 11th birthday. No one had remembered. Downstairs, he could hear the loud voices of his aunt, uncle, and cousin. They were his only family, yet they treated him as a stranger, a burden. He was sent to his room for being in the way. Harry sighed. This was his life. He was the boy in the cupboard, the freak. He often had a strange dream, a flash of green light and a cruel laugh. He would wake up, his lightning bolt scar prickling. A sudden tap-tap-tapping sound came from the window. Harry jumped. He crept closer. A large tawny owl was on the ledge. It held a letter in its beak. It dropped the envelope inside and flew away. Harry picked it up. The address was written in emerald green ink. Mr. H. Potter, the smallest bedroom. He broke the red wax seal. The letter was from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. They said he was a wizard. Harry's heart raced. It had to be a joke, but it felt real. He hid the letter under his mattress. The next morning, he showed the Dursleys. Uncle Vernon turned purple with rage. He snatched the letter and threw it in the fire. "No magic," he roared. Aunt Petunia looked terrified. "We swore to stamp it out," she shrieked. But more letters came, dozens of them. They flooded the house, coming down the chimney and under the door. Vernon Dursley went mad. "We are leaving," he yelled. He drove them to a filthy hotel on a stormy cliff. At midnight, a giant of a man smashed the door down. "Happy birthday, Harry," he rumbled. He was Rubeus Hagrid, keeper of keys at Hogwarts. He gave Harry a slightly squashed chocolate cake. Hagrid glared at the Dursleys. You never told him what really happened to his parents." He turned to Harry, his voice softening. "You're a wizard, Harry, a good one I'd reckon. Your parents were too. They were murdered by the darkest wizard of all time. His name was Voldemort." The Dursleys shuddered. "He tried to kill you too, but he failed. That's how you got that scar. You're famous, Harry. Everyone in our world knows your name." Harry felt the world tilt. His parents were heroes. He had magic. He was not a freak. He was someone. Hagrid took him to London the next day. They entered a secret pub called the Leaky Cauldron. Everyone inside recognized Harry. They shook his hand, their faces full of awe. Hagrid led him to a brick wall. He tapped a sequence. The brick shifted, forming an archway. Beyond it was a magical street, Diagon Alley. Harry saw shops selling cauldrons, owls, and strange ingredients. The air buzzed with magic. Their first stop was Gringotts Wizarding Bank. It was run by clever, stern goblins. Hagrid showed them a key. "We're here for Harry Potter's vault." A goblin led them deep underground on a wild cart ride. They reached Vault 767. Inside was a vast pile of gold, silver, and bronze coins. "All yours," Hagrid said. Harry was rich. They bought his school supplies, robes from Madame Malkin, a cauldron, scales, and books. In a shop, he met a pale boy with a drawling voice. "My father is buying my books," the boy said. "I'm Draco Malfoy." He was arrogant and rude. Harry did not like him. Next, they visited the wand shop, Ollivander's. The old wandmaker had eerie, pale eyes. "I wondered when I'd see you, Mr. Potter," he whispered. He measured Harry and brought out wand after wand. None were right. Then he offered one, holly and phoenix feather, 11 inches. "Curious," he said. "The phoenix whose tail feather is in your wand gave one other. Its brother gave you that scar." Harry took the wand. A warm feeling spread through his fingers. Red and gold sparks shot from the tip. "The wand has chosen the wizard," Ollivander said. Harry bought a snowy owl he named Hedwig. He got his train ticket, platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross. Hagrid saw him off. "I'll see ya at Hogwarts." The Dursleys were silent on the drive home. The next week, Harry read his schoolbooks, his heart full of hope. On September 1st, Uncle Vernon dropped him at the station and left. Harry was alone with his trunk and owl. He could not find the platform. He saw a large, friendly family. The mother noticed his confusion. "First time? It's Ron's first time too. Just walk straight at the barrier between 9 and 10. Don't stop." Her son, a red-haired boy, went through. Harry took a deep breath. He ran at the wall. He did not crash. He was on a platform with a scarlet steam engine, the Hogwarts Express. On the train, he found the red-haired boy. "I'm Ron Weasley," Harry introduced himself. Ron's eyes widened. "Blimey, Harry Potter!" They became fast friends, sharing sweets. A bossy girl named Hermione Granger came looking for a lost toad. She seemed to know all the spells already. They arrived at a dark platform. A giant voice called, "Fur's years, over here." It was Hagrid. He led them down a path to a great black lake. On the other side stood Hogwarts Castle, a vast, lit palace of towers and windows. They got into small boats and sailed across the silent water. At the castle doors stood Professor McGonagall, a stern witch in emerald robes. "Welcome to Hogwarts. The sorting ceremony will begin shortly." She explained the 4 houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Your house would be your family. Points would be won for good deeds and lost for rule-breaking. They entered the Great Hall. Thousands of candles floated in the air. The ceiling was enchanted to look like the night sky. The whole school was watching. Professor McGonagall placed a ragged old hat on a stool. The hat twitched. A rip near the brim opened like a mouth and it began to sing. It sang of the 4 houses and their values. When it finished, the hall applauded. The sorting began. Professor McGonagall read names from a list. One by one, students went up, put on the hat, and were sorted. Hermione Granger. She sat for a minute before the hat shouted Gryffindor. She ran to the cheering table. Draco Malfoy. The hat barely touched his head before it screamed Slytherin. He swaggered to his table. Then Harry Potter. A wave of whispers swept the hall. Harry sat on the stool and the hat was placed over his eyes. He heard a small voice in his ear. Difficult, very difficult, plenty of courage, I see, a keen mind and a thirst to prove yourself, but where to put you? Harry thought, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. Not Slytherin, eh? Said the voice. Are you sure? You could be great, you know, but if you're sure, better be Gryffindor. He heard the hat shout the last word to the whole hall. He took off the hat and walked to the Gryffindor table on trembling legs. He was met with cheers and applause. Ron was sorted into Gryffindor a moment later, looking immensely relieved. The feast began. The golden plates filled with more food than Harry had ever seen. Roast beef, chicken, pork chops, sausages, bacon, steak, boiled potatoes, roast potatoes, chips, Yorkshire pudding, peas, carrots, gravy, and ketchup. It was delicious. The conversation was loud and happy. For dessert, blocks of ice cream, apple pies, treacle tarts, and chocolate eclairs appeared. When everyone was full, the food vanished. Headmaster Albus Dumbledore stood up. He had a long silver beard and twinkling eyes. Just a few start-of-term notices. The forest is forbidden to all students. Magic is not permitted in the corridors. Quidditch trials will be held in the 2nd week. His eyes twinkled. And finally, I must tell you that the 3rd floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to anyone who does not wish to die a very painful death. Harry wondered if he was serious. The students sang the school song, everyone at their own pace. The Weasley twins sang a slow funeral march. Dumbledore conducted them with his wand. Ah, music, he said, wiping his eyes. A magic beyond all we do here, and now, bedtime. The Gryffindor first years followed Percy Weasley, a prefect, up marble staircases and through confusing corridors. They reached a portrait of a fat lady in a pink dress. Password, she said. Caput Draconis, said Percy. The portrait swung open, revealing a round hole. They climbed into the Gryffindor common room. It was a cozy, round room with squashy armchairs and a crackling fire. The girls went one way to their dormitory, the boys another. Harry climbed a spiral staircase to find his 4-poster bed. His trunk was already there. He put on his pajamas. Great, isn't it? Ron said from the next bed. Harry looked around at his new friends at the warm, safe castle. He was home. He was Harry Potter, the wizard. His adventure was just beginning. He fell asleep with a smile, dreaming of the magic to come. After his first night of sleep in the Gryffindor dormitory, Harry woke to the sound of Ron Weasley muttering to his pet rat, Scabbers. Sunlight streamed through the high, arched windows, illuminating the circular room. Harry looked out to see the Hogwarts lake gleaming in the morning light, its surface smooth as glass. Come on, you two, said Percy Weasley, poking his head through the door, his prefect badge already pinned neatly to his robes. You don't want to be late for your first breakfast, and you'll need a good meal. It's a full day of lessons. Harry and Ron hurriedly pulled on their robes and joined the stream of students heading down to the Great Hall. The enchanted ceiling was a clear, pale blue, and the hall was filled with the cheerful clatter of plates and the smell of toast and bacon. As they sat down, hundreds of owls suddenly streamed in through the high windows, delivering the morning post. A beautiful snowy owl, Hedwig, landed gracefully in front of Harry, nipping his finger affectionately. She didn't have a letter, but she had clearly enjoyed her night of freedom. Their first lesson was potions down in the dungeons. The classroom was cold, with pickled animals floating in jars lining the walls. The potions master, Professor Snape, swept in, his black robes billowing behind him. He had a hooked nose, sallow skin, and greasy black hair that framed his face. His eyes were black and cold. He started the lesson by taking the roll call, and when he reached Harry's name, he paused. Ah yes, he said softly. Harry Potter, our new celebrity. He finished calling names and looked out over the class. You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of potion making. He began in a voice barely more than a whisper. I can teach you how to bottle fame, brew glory, even stopper deaths if you aren't as big a bunch of dunderheads as I usually have to teach. His eyes seemed to bore directly into Harry. Potter, he said suddenly, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormhood? Hermione's hand shot into the air. Harry, however, had no idea. I don't know, sir, he said. Tut, tut, said Snape. Fame clearly isn't everything. He ignored Hermione's straining arm. Let's try again. Potter, where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar? Hermione stretched her hand as high as it would go. Harry glanced at her, but he was determined not to look at his book. "I don't know, sir." "Thought you wouldn't open a book before coming, Potter," Snape said, a cruel smile playing on his lips. He finally acknowledged Hermione. "For your information, Potter, Asphodel, and Wormhood make a sleeping potion so powerful it is known as the Draught of Living Death. A bezoar is a stone taken from the stomach of a goat and it will save you from most poisons. And as for Monkshood and Wolfsbane, they are the same plant, which also goes by the name of aconite." He then assigned them the simple task of brewing a cure for boils. As Harry and Ron worked, their potion, a product of confused instructions and Snape's intimidating presence, turned a murky brown instead of the turquoise blue described in the book. Snape swooped past their cauldron, his lip curling. "Clearly, fame isn't a substitute for talent, Potter. 0 points." It was a miserable start, but their next class, Charms with the tiny, fluttering Professor Flitwick, was much better. They were learning to make feathers fly with the levitation charm Wingardium Leviosa. After much practice and after Hermione corrected Ron's pronunciation, it's Leviosa, not Leviosar, she was the first to send her feathers soaring gracefully into the air, earning a beam of approval from Professor Flitwick. Flying lessons, however, were what Harry was most excited about. They were to be with the Slytherins. Madame Hooch, a woman with short, gray hair and hawk-like yellow eyes, stood before them, a line of broomsticks lying on the grass. "Stick your right hand over your broom," she barked, "and say up." "UP," everyone shouted. Harry's broom jumped instantly into his hand. It was smooth and felt right. Next to him, Ron's broom simply rolled over and Hermione's had only twitched on the ground. Draco Malfoy's broom had also snapped up obediently. Madame Hooch showed them how to mount their brooms without sliding off. As she was about to start them on basic lifts, Neville Longbottom, nervous and clumsy, pushed off hard from the ground before the whistle had touched her lips. He rose straight up like a cork, higher and higher, his face pale with terror. Then he slipped. There was a nasty crack as he hit the ground, clutching his wrist. Madame Hooch hurried over, her face stern. "Broken wrist," she said. "Come on, boy, it's all right, up you get." She helped a sobbing Neville to his feet and looked at the rest of the class. "None of you is to move while I take this boy to the hospital wing if I see a single broom in the air. The one riding it will be out of Hogwarts before you can say Quidditch." As soon as she was out of earshot, Malfoy burst into laughter. "Did you see his face, the great lump?" He then noticed something glinting in the grass where Neville had fallen. It was a remembrall, a glass ball Neville's grandmother had sent him. "Look, it's the fat little idiot's remembrall." "Give it here, Malfoy," Harry said quietly. Everyone stopped talking to watch. Malfoy smiled nastily. "I think I'll leave it somewhere for Longbottom to find. How about up a tree?" He mounted his broom and kicked off into the air. He hadn't been lying, he could fly well. He hovered level with the highest branches of an oak. "Come and get it, Potter." Harry grabbed his broom. "Don't do it, Harry," Hermione said. "You heard Madame Hooch." But Harry was already on the broom. He kicked off from the ground and a sudden, wonderful sensation filled him. This was easy. This was magic. He soared up, facing Malfoy in the air. The Gryffindors on the ground cheered. "Give it here," Harry called, "or I'll knock you off your broom." "Is that so?" Malfoy sneered, but he looked uneasy. Harry, driven by an instinct he didn't understand, leaned forward and pointed his broom handle straight at Malfoy. Malfoy only just got out of the way in time. Harry turned, gripping the broom tightly. He saw the remembrall in Malfoy's hand. "No!" Malfoy shouted as Harry dove. It was a spectacular dive. Harry sped towards the ground, his hand outstretched. A foot from the grass, he pulled up, his hand closed over the glass ball, and he landed lightly on the lawn, clutching the remembrall. Harry Potter. Professor McGonagall was running towards them, her face white. Harry's heart plummeted. He was for it now. "Never in all my time at Hogwarts," she was speechless with fury. "How dare you? You could have broken your neck." "It wasn't his fault, Professor." "Be quiet, Miss Patil." "But Malfoy." "That's enough, Mr. Weasley. Potter, follow me now." Harry, sure he was about to be expelled, followed her, but she didn't lead him to her office. Instead, she took him to a classroom where a lanky boy with a shock of red hair was unpacking a large, wooden crate. "Excuse me, Professor Flitwick, could I borrow wood for a moment?" Wood? Harry was confused, but then the boy turned around. Oliver Wood, a burly fifth year, looked puzzled. "What's this, Professor?" "I've found you a seeker," Professor McGonagall said crisply. Wood's expression changed from confusion to delight. "Are you serious, Professor?" Absolutely, she said. The boy's a natural, I've never seen anything like it. He caught this in a 50-foot dive without training. He didn't even scratch himself. That Charlie Weasley couldn't have done it better. She explained the rules of Quidditch to a stunned Harry. 7 players a side, 4 balls, 3 chasers who score with the quaffle, 2 beaters who keep the bludgers from knocking players off their brooms, a keeper who guards the goal hoops, and a seeker who has to catch the golden snitch, a tiny winged ball worth 150 points, which usually ends the game. You'll make a fine seeker, Potter, Wood said, his eyes gleaming. We start training next week. Don't forget your broom. I'll get Professor Dumbledore to lift the first-year ban. I can't believe it, a seeker in his first year. Harry walked back to the common room in a daze. He wasn't expelled. He was on the house Quidditch team. When he told Ron what had happened, Ron's look of horror turned to one of amazement. The Quidditch team, he said, but first years never. You must be the youngest house player in about a century. Wait until I tell Fred and George. That evening in the common room, the news spread like wildfire. Everyone was clapping Harry on the back, and Fred and George Weasley came over. We have to get you on the team, Harry, said George. Wood told us we're the beaters. It's brilliant, said Fred. We've got the best team in years. Even Hermione seemed impressed, though she still muttered about rule breaking. For the first time in his life, Harry was not just known, but celebrated for something he was genuinely good at. He fell asleep that night not just as Harry Potter, the wizard, but as Harry Potter, the Gryffindor seeker, his future at Hogwarts shining brighter than ever.